Alright, my name is James Monagold, and I'm going to be talking to you guys about the history of war today. So one of the questions that I thought of when I first started doing this presentation is how long have we actually been fighting? And I looked it up, and according to the Ancient History Encyclopedia, the first war recorded in human history was in Mesopotamia in 2700 BCE between Sumer and Elam. And the Sumerians, under the command of the king of Kish, Enema Baragasi, defeated the Elamites in the war, and it is recorded that they carried away as spoils the weapons of Elam. So, and I also put a nice visual of some ancient warfare on there for you guys. And then I thought, why, or what has happened before humans? And I found some interesting things about some early acts of aggression and like related to humans. And 10,000 years ago, on the shores of Lake Turkana in Kenya, 2012, a group of Cambridge University scientists found a burial site, if you want to call it that, of 27 people that were hunter-gatherers, and they were brutally murdered. They were found in a lagoon, and it was like swamp terrain, and a lot of them had their hands lashed together, and their skulls were bashed in. That's definitely a good example of some what was prehistoric warfare. Also, I have, according to Dr. Grossman, chimps do form war parties as well, and they're our closest relatives. One great example of chimps fighting one another goes back to 1974 through 1978, when Jane Goodall, a renowned primatologist, studied chimps in Gombe Stream National Park in Tanzania, and she started noticing change in a group of chimpanzees that had split, and one group was the Kahama group, which consisted of 9 adults, they're young, and an adolescent, and the Kasekela group with 20 adults and they're young. The chimpanzees who were involved in they were originally a single unified community. By 1974, they started dividing themselves into northern and southern subdivisions, and the Kahama group was the southern group, and the northern was the Kasekela, but the Kasekela was the bigger group. In 1974, the Kasekela group had systematically invaded the territory of the Kahama group and eliminated it completely. Dr. Goodall had witnessed the Kasekela group mutilating and cannibalizing the other group of chimps. So there's another example of some war that has been going on for a while. I wanted to talk about weapons for a little bit. I thought this graph was really cool. This graph came off of DuPont Institute, and it shows the evolution of weapons since as long as they have been recorded. So as you can see, swords were kind of like the earliest, or like some of the earliest besides sticks and stones, and it evolved into bows, crossbows, and different variations of that. And once we started to get into after like 1400 or so, we started to move into the age of gunpowder, and then from there we went from cannons to smoothbore small arms to muskets to flintlocks, and all the way to where we are now with missiles, tanks, and all of that good stuff. Here I have some of the deadliest battles. So I thought that'd be very important to talk about since we're talking about the history of war. The Battle of Gettysburg was in 1863 between the Confederate Army and the Union Army during our Civil War. There's estimated 46,000 casualties, and the day the tide of the war turned in favor of the Union during the Civil War was also the day that the highest number of casualties in a single battle throughout the entire conflict. After a series of Confederate victories, General Lee and his troops marched north to invade the Union territory. Fighting raged back and forth for 3 days before the Unionists emerged triumphant. The battle is remembered as the Battle of the Civil War, immortalized by the Gettysburg Address, and standing as a symbol of the Union's cause and eventual victory. The fourth biggest battle in human history was the Battle of Cannae in 216 BC. This was between Rome and Carthage. Casualties ranged right around 60,000, and the Carthaginians won. There were 50,000 Romans that had lost their lives, and around 10,000 Carthaginians. So that was definitely a very nasty war. I found this one of the most interesting ones. The first day of Somme in World War I, 1916, that was a battle that had went on for a couple months between the British and the Germans, and that ended up on the first day, 60,000 British lost their lives in one day, and 8,000 Germans lost their lives that day as well. The battle lasted several months and nearly killed roughly around 1 million people. So, and that's according to militaryhistory.org. The second worst battle in human history was the Battle of Leipzig in 1813, and 84,000 people died in that battle. It was the largest battle on European soil prior to World War I. The battle itself was between France versus Austria, Prussia, and Russia. So basically it was everybody versus France. But France ended up losing 30,000 and the Allies lost 54,000. The French were led by Napoleon. And the deadliest battle in human history was the Battle of Stalingrad. There were 841,000 Nazis killed in this battle, and 1,130,000 Soviets killed. The Soviets came out on top. And this was the deadliest battle in human history. So some concluding thoughts. War has been around for a long time, and it has happened before humans have even been here. Chimpanzees have been to war. The early forms of humans have been to war. The weapons have came so far from sticks and stones, and now we have atomic bombs. So it's, I don't want to say it's cool, but it's definitely different than it used to be. And then you obviously could tell after going through all the statistics that some of our wars have been very, very bloody, but at the end of the day, we need to learn from our mistakes and learn for what we can do in the future. So, thank you very much.
Quick question, was that a picture of Mount St.